Hello guys, it's Dmitry here. Good Saturday afternoon. I'm really excited because today I'm going to start a new series of tutorials uh, for my new course, which is called JavaScript course. So essentially, I'm going to discuss about everything about JavaScript. If you guys don't know, it's a computer programming language. It's super popular nowadays, and it's it's unimaginable nowadays. You can't imagine software development as an industry without this language nowadays. So myself, I work as a dev developer on a daily basis, and I predominantly use this language. So, and the front end part of my projects, I usually work with the React.js libraries. I'm sure you heard about that, but anyway, I'm going to discuss in details about that. And the backend, it's so-called Node.js, which is runtime environment, which is essentially even the library React.js also works with this engine, runtime engine. All right, let's jump into that. And this tutorial is going to be it's going to give you some insight on the language itself, how it was developing, and it's not going to be super technical, but I think it's really important to understand some insight, some history of this language, why it was created and why it's super popular nowadays, why it became so popular. Okay, let's discuss about that. Okay, I would like to start from showing you one thing. The JavaScript, right? The explanation in the wiki that I found, it's really vague, and it's just saying JavaScript is a high level, often just-in-time compiled and multi-paradigm, right? To be honest, from this explanation, I'm even more confused now, right? After reading it. So instead of that, I just would like to stay focused on what I'm going to talk about, right? First of all, I'm sure you guys, if you heard before about JavaScript, or if you read a bit about JavaScript history, originally this language, right? We just thought about this language as about front-end language, right? Or I would say the language that allows your application to work or to communicate with the browsers, right? Because all the browsers by default, they understand JavaScript. That's how it was originally, right? That was the main purpose for why it was created originally, this language. But nowadays, JavaScript, it's more than just a language of browsers, right? It's more than that. And again, historically, I would say one thing. It's important to understand that historically, for front end and the server side, we use different approaches. For instance, in the front end or for browsers, in order to run browsers, yes, originally we used JavaScript. But in order to pass the data to the server side, what we did, and what people sometimes still do nowadays, they wrap in these SQL queries into, for instance, PHP language, PHP code, and they send it to server side, because languages like PHP or Ruby or Python, they are server-side languages, and that's why they still widely utilized. But nowadays, actually, I would like to switch to tool that I already kind of mentioned. It's called Node.js. So as it's implied, it's a JavaScript runtime engine, right? So essentially, the idea is, if you're running your JavaScript code with the help of this engine or in this environment, you can use JavaScript as a server-side language. Essentially, what the benefit. And guys, I would like really like to specify, to stress it out, the benefit of learning JavaScript. If you learn JavaScript, essentially you can work as a full stack developer, right? Because you can work as a front-end developer and a back-end developer, which is really awesome opportunity, right, guys? I just would like to stress out, like, many people, they just don't know that. So anyway, about this Node.js, nowadays it's really booming, and so yeah, that's what we do in my company on a daily basis. We utilize Node.js, and that's how we're running front end and back end, right? We're using this JavaScript engine or runtime environment. So, all right, let's move on. Also, I would like to talk about, guys, it is well-known fact that, the language itself, or JavaScript, it was officially found in 1995. And the interesting thing is the name itself, right? Many people, they still confused. They can hear about language like Java versus JavaScript, and some people assume it's the same language, but reality is like they're completely different languages. And like in general, I would say Java, it's a object-oriented programming language, and the JavaScript, it's not, right? So, but again, JavaScript is really evolving, and nowadays we also can use like so-called classes, and and functions, methods, and so on. So, and it's important to understand, like, still there are some differences, right? And these languages, they're completely different, Java and JavaScript. But again, I'm not going to dive deeper or to dig deeper in the technical details, because there are so many tech details and to discuss about. So I would like to talk also about different libraries and frameworks, especially like front-end libraries and frameworks that nowadays widely utilized. And like these frameworks and libraries, they use JavaScript at the core. So, for instance, React.js, right? This framework, and you can hear, guys, I'm really excited because I'm using this. I use this framework on a daily basis. It's really nice framework, and it's constantly evolving. And they always like the team, React.js team, and they always introduce new features, and it's just really awesome tool to work with. So if you know React.js, then it's really easy to grasp this framework. And it's based on it's based on JavaScript. Another really popular framework is Angular.js. So essentially, again, React.js itself, if I mention that it's framework, to be honest with you, like, technically it's not a framework, it's a library. And this library was introduced by, I guess, originally introduced and nowadays widely used by a Facebook team. So, and Angular.js, this is the actual framework. When I'm talking about the framework, it has like so-called routers library and like all this bunch of libraries, and altogether combined, it's a like self-contained thing, and that's why we call it framework, which is not the case in case of React.js. There are still things that you have to import in order to use React.js as a library. That's why. So that's the main difference. But still, Angular.js, it's also using JavaScript as a core. The same, another popular framework, it's called Vue. I never worked with this framework, but I heard like there are so many people, they really excited about this framework, and it's becoming more and more popular. Again, it's also a front-end framework. So let's move on, guys. I also would like to talk about, I'm sure guys you heard before about ECMAScript, right? What is it, ECMAScript? ECMAScript 6, 7, 1, it starts from 1, right? So essentially it's a European Computer Manufacturers Association script, right? And it was established in order to maintain the standards of the JavaScript language, right? Of JavaScript, like the syntax, right? So, and that's how it is, right? And that's why nowadays when it's evolving, it should be approved by this association, and it should be like a standard, right? And that's why the new version, them when they released, we call them version 6, 7, and I guess the latest one nowadays is it's version 9. So actually this is the history, right? The first version addition to standardize JavaScript was introduced in 1997, and then you can see the history. The second edition was in 98, then 99, and the latest one was introduced in 2018, which is ES9. To be honest with you, like on a daily basis, I usually work and I usually hear over and over again about ES6 and ES7, but I assume like I already using some of the features of ECMAScript 8 and 9, right? But you can see like this is the crucial from ES5. Really important features were introduced, like JavaScript, JSON support, and JSON passing and receiving JSON files. It just, you know, it's a crucial part of the language itself. So yeah. So also I would like to mention about another thing. I found this in, you can see like Kanga's GitHub. This is the chart or the table that shows like what kind of features of what kind of version of ECMAScript are supported by different browsers, because it's important to understand different versions of browsers, they can or cannot support some of the features of new edition of ECMAScript or new versions of ECMAScript. So that's why, especially if you're a software developer, you have to be careful. You have to analyze if you're developing a new feature, if you're utilizing a standard JavaScript features. If you have to understand your audience, your customers, if they use a specific browser, version of browser that is going to support this version or like your implementation. It's crucial. Otherwise, it can be a really bad user experience, or it's not a good looking thing. If you develop stuff and it's not going to work right, only because you didn't pay attention to version of ECMAScript, right? So yeah, pretty much it, guys, for today. And yeah, again, as I mentioned, it's not a technical dive, but I think it's really important to understand the history, right, or the inside of this language. And that's why I started from introducing all this information about the JavaScript itself. Thank you very much, guys, for your attention. I hope that you as excited as I am about this series of JavaScript course. I'm going to keep going on publishing a new tutorials, JavaScript tutorials, as often as possible. And thank you very much, guys. If you like it, please subscribe and please keep on watching. I'm encouraging you, just keep on watching, because it's all about knowledge, right? And also later on I'm going to write some code, right? And just follow, guys, and you're going to gain some knowledge, and knowledge is experience, experience is knowledge. It's all about practicing in our field, in the field of software development. Thank you very much, guys, and have a good one, and goodbye.